Good morning, everyone, and welcome to American Scouser's morning coffee or tea with American Scouser. Have the morning coffee, doing the green thing today, and with me, as always, this morning is Trevor. Trevor, what's happening, man?
Not too much. Just prepping for the quick turnaround this week.
Yes, it's in some ways it's good because I'm almost eager to see them back in action after the weekend. Probably a couple of weeks so we were like,
Yeah.
we've had enough of this, let's take a break. I'm kind of like eager to see how it continues, I guess, more than anything else. After Rangers, City, now what's next with West Ham? Do we keep going the same way we were? Obviously, we're not going to have everybody. The news coming in is Jota being out for about a month, which puts him out of the World Cup and obviously puts him out of our lineup until after the World Cup. How big of a blow is that going to be, you think, given him his form and how he was kind of fitting into this new system?
I think it's huge, and with Diaz already out, and according to Jurgen's press conference this morning, not really close to being back in his own right. He's probably going to miss the World Cup too. That puts a lot of onus on Darwin to kind of be that flex guy that can go up top when we need him or go left when that calls for it as well, which we'll see if that's something that he's capable of doing. You'd think with the couple of performances that he's had that he has that in him, but we'll see if that's something that can go long term or if he's just better up top and then we have somebody else to go out left.
And that's the thing. We were talking about this yesterday, and I know like the boys were saying, about like we're talking about playing Nunez on the left. I guess the only thing I worry about that is attacking wise. It would be interesting to see how it works with Robertson in terms of the overlaps and stuff like that. What I'm more concerned about is probably defensively and how much he tracks back, and he has like a rash challenge in him at times. I mean, we've seen it before. So how he controls that when he's in the action a lot more. I think when you're the center guy as a forward, you're not in the action as much defensively. Even when you're pressing and stuff, physically, you're not in the action as much defensively. You are definitely on the wings. You're in the thick of things a lot more, going back and forth. So it would be interesting to see that. I don't know if that's what we will end up doing. Don't forget, Ox is back somewhere in there practicing, so I'm sure he'll be back in action pretty soon himself. Because suddenly we're short wingers. I'm assuming, I don't know, the last time we tried both Carvalho and Elliott, it did not give as good of a result. I really don't like Carvalho on the wing, but I don't know if that's what we're gonna end up seeing is Carvalho on left again.
Yeah, and I think at least short term, maybe for tomorrow, maybe at the weekend, that's something you see just because it seems Jurgen's trying to get Harvey more antiquated in the midfield. Acclimated was the word I was looking for, not antiquated. Sorry about that. Bad dictionary morning. But with Elliott kind of like being as the guy that is the push forward of the three in the midfield, you really don't want to kind of just start jerking them around back and forth between the two spots. You kind of want them to get comfortable. So I think it's going to be Carvalho, unless your boy Ox makes a miraculous turnaround in 24 hours.
You never count Ox off, at least for a game or two before he gets injured again. But I mean, all joking aside, he definitely might be needed, and he might be able to get some minutes now. Maybe if we're able to secure the Champions League, like the guarantee in like the last game or something like that, make an appearance. Daz and Alan are both with us this morning. Good morning, gentlemen. And so it's going to be. That's going to be interesting moving forward. No Jota. I was kind of really comfortable with him being on that side. And, we'll see, because I really want Mo, we talked about this on last night's podcast too, more central and closer to the freaking goal, for God's sake, so we can get the goals from him, because obviously we see what happens when he's not tied to the freaking sideline and he can kind of like have more time in the middle. I mean, I know he likes cutting in, but it felt like the first 3-4 weeks of the season, he didn't even get a chance to cut in. He was just like on the sideline. I mean, he was still creating, but he's the finisher at the same time. I think that's the thing with Mo. He has to finish and create, and he can't do that when he's more central as opposed to, or at least, he was in the wing, but let's face it, he kept cutting in and he was almost like semi-central. I think I would like to see him more in that role moving forward, as opposed to, you go way out there and then, I mean, yeah, it works. He was able to pull some defenders with him because you got to keep an eye on Mo. So therefore he was able to create, but still, I think it just kind of makes it trickier. Dean is with us this morning as well. Dean, good morning. Mind you, I have to rant about this because I was like, what the fuck when I saw it. I think I saw some snow flurries when I was making coffee this morning, and it's freaking October 18th. Not cool is all I have to say. I was like, what is going on? What is that shit flying around? It was just like little particles, but enough to bring back brutal memories of a cold Chicago winter coming our way over here.
Too early for that shit.
Yeah. Does it get that brutal in Rhode Island?
Yeah.
It does?
It's been mild the past couple of years, but when it gets bad, it gets bad.
Of course, as we're saying this, there are people like Alan and Daz and stuff. I know where Dean is located, but out in Texas over there, who they're like, snow, what is that? We get that a day a year or something like that. So yeah, Luis Suarez wins the title with boyhood sides. I know there was a lot of talk. I know my thoughts on Suarez probably are more unpopular than most other Liverpool fans, to be honest with you. His like antics, biting this guy, eating that guy, his like racist stuff and all that. I know it's not a guy that, when the talks were about like bringing him back and stuff like that, I was like, not really, because I feel like this is like a very likable team with a lot of good humans in there. And I'm not saying Luis Suarez is not a good human. I mean, maybe he's not, if he was like really honest about that racist shit. And I mean, if you want your buddy to be biting you here and there, I guess it's a good guy to hang out with. But no snow in Houston, says Alan. And Dean is in New Hampshire, so he says it gets bad there. Yes, so he join the club. Yes, unfortunately.
That makes our stuff look like child's play up there.
Yep. I don't know. It does get mighty bad here, but probably maybe not bad. So looks like Klopp will be in charge on Wednesday. No official ban yet. So that's tomorrow. So it looks like he will be there tomorrow, and perhaps he'll probably be in the Forest game. I don't know if you saw that. I thought it was interesting that they asked Moyes, and he didn't want to come out and say those goddamn refs deserve it in some ways, but he might as well have, because he pretty much said, well, he was right though, wasn't he?
Yeah, and we've talked about it these past couple of days. You guys talked about it on the podcast as well. Of it's not the content of what he was saying, and the fact that he was very just animated about it and getting in the face of the official. Because when an incident like that happens, you have to go defend your players, and you really have to just let them know that you won't accept what happened, and that nothing that you're going to say is necessarily going to affect what they're going to do the next time. But you just have to do it for the optics of it, and you have to do it so your player knows that you have their back. That is more than anything. But you also, in the same vein, cannot bump the official. So there's the thing. You have to go there. You got to make your point. You can just sit there and motherfuck them all day if you want. It's fine by me on that front. If you want to give the official some stick, go for it. But you can't hit him. You can't even do something as innocuous as bump him. There's that line that just needs to be respected between the people on the sidelines and the people on the field. And if he crossed that, and we all think that he did, he deserves a game up in the stands. And even if that it's turned out by the FA, but it ends up being a couple more because he may have said some out of pocket shit, then cool. Then we do that now and don't appeal it until it comes a time where we really need him on the sidelines and he's up in the stands, because we appealed it for 2 months and still lost it. Yeah,
I think
just rip the Band-Aid off now.
I think it's a matter of, I mean, we've seen him kind of lose himself in the moments before, right? So, I mean, that Everton
Yeah.
game where he's in the middle of the field celebrating with Allison and stuff. I mean, we love it as Liverpool fans. That was that was all Klopp, I guess, but in some ways it was, if any other manager do it, I think we kind of look down on it clearly. This one, I mean, we were talking about this on the podcast yesterday. Honestly, if another manager did this, I would not look down on it as much, as long as it's within the overall character of the manager themselves. I mean, there are certain managers who are very animated, and and that's what you like about him as a fan, perhaps. I mean, you can have a guy who's like, running up and down and yelling and screaming and waving arms and making faces and stuff like that, like Klopp, like Pep and stuff like that. Or there are like managers who kind of, do the chill, the library mode, they're just like watching a game, like it's at home on TV. Well, shit, I'm more alienated watching that game on TV. But so within that, you can't have it both ways. You can't have an emotional guy that's, running back and forth, waving arms, and then expect him to be, just like straighten the tie and then be like, that was a bad call, sir. And then just keep going. It's just not going to happen. It's not within schedule. Is it right? No, but it's a full package. You can't have it both. Like I say, I think it goes back to me having a lot of sympathy on this as someone who has lost his cool. And, I think Moyes was talking about it in this press conference about sometimes the game is so emotional and there's so much going on and I feel that, I mean, personally, I mean, I think people pretty much know me by now, like personality wise, like by watching me here daily. But on the field, you do become, I mean, I know I do, a slightly different person. And sometimes you look afterwards, the normal function looks at that guy and be like, man, he was a douche today. But I mean, it's just like depends on the day. But yeah, you do become a different person. Sometimes the game kind of takes over. Right or wrong, it is what it is. I mean, I know, like I say, it happens with me, and clearly it happens with a lot of people. I mean, you could argue that these guys are professionals, they're getting paid, they should act professional, therefore, but shit, the stakes are even higher. So I'm assuming the anxiety and obviously the pressure is a lot higher as well. So in a game like that, I don't want to say I'm all for it, but I was more than okay with it. I wasn't like, I mean, if anything, put a sour note on that, it was Jota's injury. Like, Dean has mentioned that he's out of the World Cup. We were talking about earlier. I think, that was it. It wasn't like him getting a red card or anything like that. That was just managers being on the stands. I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's as big of a, especially when you have somebody like Pep on the sideline who's been there, done that, and is so involved with the thing overall in terms of like the practices and all these kind of things and tactics and stuff, that I'm not as worried. So obviously more of the headlines are about like the Ballon d'Or ceremony and the awards and stuff like that. I don't know, man. I kind of hate any award show. Like, you name it, I hate it. Because I feel it's all because of this stuff, like fans insist England midfielder Jude Bellingham was robbed. There's always somebody is robbed, right? One or the other. It's like the all-star team selection. Somebody gets the snub, or like somebody's robbed. I mean, do you like these ceremonies? Do you put any stock in them? Do you follow them?
I follow along just so if somebody asks me
in the morning,
do
you can
know
answer.
who won, so I know who won. Do I take any stock in them? Zero. Was it cool to see all of Messi's when I went to the Barcelona Camp Nou? Cool. I got a picture with him and I walked away. Yeah, the individual trophies really don't mean anything to me, and I don't think it means a lot to a lot of fans, just because those are accolades for the participants, where I think the championships are more for the collective. It's for the organization, it's for the fans, it's for everything. Whereas these individual awards, there's certain guys that really want every single thing that they can put in their trophy case. And there's some guys that legitimately just don't care. And it's not my place to judge them whether or not they care or not. I just know I try to know what's going on just to know what's going on. Doesn't affect me at all.
I think I don't know. Do you think it's changed over time? I mean, we're entering an era, not to sound like a old man ripping on the young kids and the generation, but it's a lot more. I mean, you see in American sports, thank God, soccer is not as bad as American sports, but there are a lot of fans of players as opposed to teams. I mean, I think Messi and Ronaldo are probably those examples, but I guarantee you there's a lot of Mbappe fans, babies are us and other people, like, following Mbappe around. And then if he went to a different team, they would start suddenly become a fan of that team and stuff. I mean, if I know Liverpool players involved, when Van Dijk was up there, Mo and Mane and stuff, we're obviously for it. You wanted to win it. But then again, I was freaking rooting for Trent when he was playing FIFA against, I think it was Jota, wasn't it? When during COVID and stuff. So it's like, they're good humans on your club. So you want them to do well. You want them to win. Same thing about, I'm gutted for Jota. I mean, I know, for like the World Cup and stuff, the selfish Liverpool part of us wants these guys to stay back and, get well, healthy, stock up energy and stuff like that. But he has to be hurting because he was the guaranteed starter, very important in that team. And with Neto already being out, it's a huge blow to Portugal to lose, Jota on top of it. So that part of feels bad. But do you think like these award shows have become more glorified with the newer generation because it's so much about followers and social media and stuff of like specific players as opposed to sometimes clubs?
Well, there's always been people that follow certain players because they are not like super rah fans of the sport. They just either like a certain guy's style or something he brings to the table or the way he plays, and they kind of just follow him around. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If that's the way you want to follow a given sport, go for it. That's your choice to make. And a lot of the people that I've interacted with that do that are very transparent about it. They don't sit there and go, "Oh, well, no, I really like this team because of the," and try to like rattle off some random fact that they're trying to like not look at Wikipedia. No, they're like, "No, and it's a lot up here. There's a lot of people that when Tom Brady went to the Buccaneers, jumped ship and like became Buccaneers fans because yes, they were Patriots fans, but they kind of like grew that attachment to him. So when he left, they didn't feel that attachment to the team anymore. It's not something that I would personally do. And I think it is becoming more prevalent these days because some of these kids are seeing these guys on like social media and they're seeing them in ad campaigns before they even see them on the field playing their sport.
True.
And it may influence them to kind of, do that, be that kind of nomadic single player fan. And all the power to them if that's the way they wanted to do it. Just, I don't think you can get super upset at that point if you were like just a Jude Bellingham fan and then he loses an award to a Barcelona guy. Like, have you watched like World 11 or any of these Ballon d'Or things for like the past 25 fucking years? It's Real Madrid and Barcelona guys with a sprinkling of every other team in there. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, they're like,
And
let's
to
get
think
somebody else in here. Like,
yeah, and to think it's going to be anything different, you're just going to give yourself a migraine. So just don't.
and that's what I mean. I think you're right. It's kind of like a personal thing too. I mean, I find it really hard to follow sports where you have to root for a person. That's why, like racing, which I don't get. Golf, I don't get either. Like watching in terms of like excitement level wise, I know there are a lot of fans of it. People are probably like throwing stuff now, like sports like that, even like tennis, like for example, I enjoy watching, but I'm not going like I find it hard to root for, especially like at this age, to root for a dude and follow him, and it's just like he won again and stuff. It's like, oh, okay. So even, I mean, like once a red, always a red and stuff. So you keep an eye on a player that you liked, and if they especially left on good terms and stuff like that, like how they're doing and stuff like that. But I don't know. I don't take special joy in it. I might be happy for them, but I'm not going to take special joy in it. It's more like seeing them and be like, the good old times. Like, like people who are like literally like, I don't check every freaking time what Mane did. But if I see it, or if they, if he wins something and does something or says something, it's like whatever, like I liked him as a player, I liked him as a human when he was here. He left in good terms overall. So yeah, I want him to do well, but I'm not going to keep like following him around to see what he's doing. Just like some fans are, it gets a little too obnoxious when that happens. So yeah, award shows were all not for it, but team of the year was City. Did you find that odd that they chose the club to sprinkle in the other person? Because I would have figured Madrid was like a lock for that.
That was my, if you want to say there was a shock or something that kind of piqued interest of it, is there was, I just didn't get where the impetus for that would come from. Maybe this is them trying to make it mean something more, because everybody knows the Ballon d'Or. Everybody kind of just knows like the young player awards. They know the coach awards, but they're trying to like build up the other kind of ones that they have that are either kind of younger in terms of how long they've been doing them. Team of the cool. I guess that's something that you can put on your wall. Say you won Team of the Year over Real Madrid. Enjoy it, I guess. Yeah, put a banner in the stands that nobody will see. Great, go for it. Don't care.
Yeah, I was just shocked that something like that was taken away from Madrid. Dean says he was glad for Mane yesterday with the Ballon d'Or. I don't know if he means like him being in it or not.
Yeah, he came in second.
He came in second, right? I honestly, that was more of, I thought whoever won the Champions League was going to win that one, and that's what it was all about. I think if we win that one, probably Mane does, and I think that's a good example. Like if we won, and Mane still leaves, and like yesterday he gets the award, I'd be happy for him. I'd be like, that was our guy and stuff like that. Like I would like that, but I'm not gonna be like, how the hell did Mane not win and stuff. Even when they kind of screwed over, I think it was like Van Dijk, right, that year, that you kind of knew it was gonna be, is it Messi or Ronaldo? I mean, I'm amazed they did not pick Ronaldo or something like that again. They're like, but he's still great. I think it's just, that's, if anything, it should be rubbing Mbappe the wrong way, because you would think owning a part of Paris and the club and all that
Ronaldo
kind of
finished
stuff
behind Diaz in the rankings.
Yeah, I mean, he ended up what, fifth, sixth, something like that.
What, Ronaldo this year?
No,
the year with
Ronaldo. I mean, it's just kind of like, I think he's there for just basically being mentioned. He was like, let's throw him in there too. It's not a party without Cristiano in there. Couple of other news. We were talking about this in the Premier League show yesterday. We should be airing later today or tomorrow early on our YouTube channel. But Richarlison is hurt, but he will be back for the World Cup, which good for him. It's going to be like, man, I normally root for Brazil in these tournaments. God damn, it's going to be so hard with like Richarlison and Neymar and shit out there. It's just like they're making it impossible for me to root for Brazil. But more importantly, I think that's the big blow for Tottenham right now. They got some big games coming up. Obviously, they're playing United first. But with Kulusevski out as well, that's going to hurt their attacking line a lot. I mean, you're pretty much down to Son and Kane now in terms of, getting something out of games in that counter attack.
Yeah, but I think and we saw it executed perfectly this past weekend against Everton. Is an Antonio Conte team. No matter how you go about it, you whether it be a penalty like they had, you go get a goal and you shut that shit down. So
Yeah.
I really think if you have Kane and Son up there and you just get them a couple opportunities between the two, they have a very good chance of getting a goal. And then just eight eight or nine people behind the ball and just take the air out of it. And that, you know what? It's not going to be the funnest football to watch, but I think it's going to work for them in the meantime. And yeah, you still got Lucas Moura lurking around. He can go on probably and give you half an hour, but not.
I think he has
Yeah.
the pace at least. I mean, that's when they. Yeah, I mean,
still these things just banged up.
I think the problem with Spurs would be if they concede first. I think you're right. If they score, they kind of like sit back. They can defend. That's one thing Conte knows for sure, and he has kind of like really done that on Tottenham. And then they can counter on you. Like even if it's just Son and Kane, you're like, hey, we're just leaving it to you guys. We're gonna defend back here. You guys do something. And you can bet on them at least creating chances on the counter with just those two, with Kane's passing and diving. And then obviously Son, we know, is an excellent player. But I think if they are chasing a game, that's when they get in trouble, because then they're open to a counter. And I think that's when they struggle defensively, is when somebody's countering on them. Usually they try to get the lead. Even if they're not just fully sitting back, they're not pushing forward numbers where they'll never get caught on the counter and stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see how teams, including our boys, kind of like make it to the World Cup and where everybody ends up once the World Cup break starts. Last rumor, gossip / news to get to. We were talking about this on the Discord channel last night as well. Steven Gerrard's possibly out, on the way out, walking out, the doors open, all kinds of things at Villa. I've seen rumors where he's pretty much done, seen rumors where he has like basically this week, pretty much the 2 games to show. I don't know what he's going to show. I mean, I guess they got to get at least like 3 or 4 points from these 2 games for him to get. I figured kind of like any manager right now would automatically have until the World Cup. I guess I underestimated.
Yeah, and it's something where I don't know what the expectations were at Aston Villa coming in this year. If we go back to what you were talking about with your preview video for the club and just the
we got
vitriol that came from
hammered.
it, that I think there was a bit more positivity than there probably should have been. But I think it's something where he's trying to blend a roster together that is filled with an incredible amount of inexperienced people, with guys that are either routinely hurt or over the hill. And if you can't have that proper mix and the balance is off, things just go south real quick, and you're just constantly scrambling. And when you're a manager that was coming in with a bit of high regard from what he did at Rangers and a big name within the English game, there's not going to be that kind of leeway or that slack given to you by your supporters, even though if you look at it just objectively, Aston Villa is not they're not a top 10 team. I didn't think they were necessarily relegation fodder, but they were definitely a bottom half of the table team. And to have these lofty expectations of otherwise, I think is just putting undue pressure on a guy that's already trying to do way too much with way too little.
See, we thought, and that's the funny thing, that video we did, and we did it for every team, but it somehow went semi-viral. I think it got, shared in a couple of like Villa groups, like look at these bozos in the US talking crap or something like that. And, people came up with virtual pitchforks all over it. But honestly, like the video was not even that bad. Like we hammered a lot of other teams more than that. Thank God they didn't watch those or they came up with pitchforks for those. But I mean, our main concern was, I think they have a ton of good pieces. There's a lot of talent on that team. We were more talking about as they add even more pieces, will Gerard be able to kind of make him fit and get the most out of everybody in his system? And actually, now that he has an off season, establish what he wants to do. And you look at that team now, and that's what our concern was. You still don't know, and it almost looks like he still doesn't know who is more of the clear-cut starter and whose role is what and stuff like that. They're still figuring it out. I mean, you look at that team with like Ings and Watkins and Coutinho. I mean, there's like Buendia. I mean, there's so much talent, but it just has not been able to. He has not able to put the pieces together to make it work. I guess consistently, and that was the concern, and we got hammered for it. But I mean, I hope he turns around. I don't know what's going to happen in 2 games. I mean, Gally was saying, when your own stadium is singing about, you getting the like sack in the morning. I don't know if there's a way to turn from that. But then again, fans are fickle. You get to figure they get 6 points from 2 games. They might be all back on the Steven Gerrard. But I think the fans are frustrated as well, because of partially what you're saying, though, because the expectations were there with all these players I named, and obviously there's a lot more like in the back and the Crest One stuff, and they were, more talking about, doing better, like making a run for the top 6 and stuff like that. Well, you start with that, and then you're in the bottom 6 or mighty close to it. If they're not, obviously there's going to be a lot of rumblings because you're not seeing anything on the field either that's telling you you're moving in a direction, good or bad. It's just kind of like every time there's like a bunch of dice being rolled and thrown out, and every time it's different. So let's hope he makes it. I mean, the rumors are Pochettino, and I've heard some other names as well in terms of like coming over there, which I don't know if it's a good project for him. But I'll tell you what, if I like Pochettino. I don't know if this is the right fit or he would find it the right fit. But I really think he would get more. I mean, he'll have that new manager smell that automatically brings some stuff, but I think he will get more out of it. So, well, it's that
Let's
time.
Not get it twisted, though. If Nuno wasn't already linked to Wolves, he would have been linked to this job. That's kind of the level, and I think Pochettino is just a hair above that. I think.
Yeah, I think he kind of had his chances, right? Like with the big boys. But I know United really wanted him, and a lot of United fans still want him. But I don't know. He's too much of a nice guy. He's the guy that is kind of hard to hate on. But I don't know if he's going to get, unless he takes over a team like Villa and does really well, and they're like, yeah, this was basically below my level, and then jump up to like a United, the Chelsea or something like that. Yeah, you're right. His next gig is probably around this level, or like a top tier team in a different league or something like that in Spain or something. But that's probably it. But by the way, public service announcement: there are games today, and the way this crappy Premier League fantasy works, better make sure your lineups are fixed. I think the first kickoff is in 3 hours.
Yeah.
Knowing their servers are shit, they'll be ready.
And get your City and Arsenal guys out.
Real quick, what's going on with Ramsey? I don't think he's just ready yet. I think he's just, the kid that we brought up with promise, and he's just not ready yet. I mean, you got to figure he pretty much had no.
He's back in training.
He's back in training, and he was on the
not
bench,
ready to be in the squad.
I think on one of these games. I don't think he even made the bench in the City game, for example, because Trent was the player that would have been slotted in there to replace a right back and stuff like that. I kind of expect him to see him at least show up on the squad in one of these cup games soon. I don't know if it's a starting role, but at least making an appearance. I think he has a lot of room to kind of make up because of the missed off
next week against Ajax. If he's not at least on the roster, then there's been a setback.
That's true because they have like you can put like 35 people on the bench or something like that in the Champions League, I think. So yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Well, Trevor, thanks a lot, and thanks to all those following, listening. Give us a share. Heck, share the entire episode if you can on Facebook. Help us get the word out over here. We'll be back tomorrow. It'll be a pretty much pre-match show at the same time for the West Ham game, and then hopefully the boys will keep on going. Enjoy your day, and we'll see you guys.